What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 2 of Rooted Oceania, where we share the journey of creative innovators across Oceania. Today, we're going to say kia ora to my good friend, Daniel Sugrue. Danny, thank you for coming on the show, man. Appreciate you. All the way in
Thank
New
you.
Zealand. How you doing, man?
Oh, dude, so good. Thank you for having me too, by the way. But yeah, pretty good, man. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing great. Akina's over there in Guam. Akina, how are you doing over there in Guam?
Good. It's a Sunday here, so it's nice to be joined by you guys, and thank you for being here.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you guys so much. I'm really stoked because the first episode was with Akina, and Akina was actually the guest, but we kind of developed this into being a, kind of like a third party thing where we can have a few hosts and talk to a guest like yourself and just, kind of perpetuate the culture. We're all from the Pacific Islands, and I know that you have some, culture in some other parts of the world too. So I just want to ask Danny, just, tell us about yourself. Tell us, the people that are watching, give me a little background story about you.
Well, my name's Daniel. I hail from the South Island of New Zealand, Aotearoa. I now live at the bottom of the top of the North Island. So if no one knows New Zealand, we have two islands, North and South, pretty straightforward. I'm from the very bottom of the South Island. I now live at the very bottom of the North Island.
Awesome.
I've lived here for about 5 years. The culture can change a little bit between islands, but apart from that, we're all a pretty happy family here. New Zealand's sort of like the same wherever you really go. The people are the same. I'm 28 years old, just turned 28. Like, was really starting to feel it.
Well, happy birthday, man.
Happy birthday.
Thanks. Thank you.
That's awesome. So, Danny, you're a musician, and for the people that are watching out there, Danny, we actually met at a show in Guam, randomly. I'm from Guam. Danny, got invited to play with Tomorrow People, which a lot of people know that reggae band from New Zealand. So I know you're working on some new stuff, and you have a ton of projects, and you're just kind of all over the place as far as being involved in the music scene, as far as New Zealand is concerned, and Oceania in a whole. Talk to us about kind of like your music experience and what you're doing and what's next for some of those projects that you got coming up.
Well, yeah, it's funny you say that because I was just talking to I don't know what you guys call roommates over there. Yeah.
Roommates.
We call them flatmates here. My flatmate is Marcus, who was the singer in Tomorrow People. That time we went to Guam where we met Peter, and it was so funny. We were just talking about that trip like literally an hour ago. It was so funny.
That's awesome.
But obviously, I was in the band Tomorrow People. Like, reggae is a huge thing in New Zealand. I was lucky enough to audition for the band Tomorrow People not long after my 22nd birthday, and they're already quite a well-established band. So we got to sort of do that and, get to play with a lot of the idols that people look up to in New Zealand, like Catch a Fire. You guys know Catch a Fire, bands like that. But really, like, as far as like what the music scene is in New Zealand, especially the reggae scene, it's all very tight-knit. A lot of bands play for other people. You end up playing one band, and next thing you know, you're like playing drums for someone else. Like everyone sort of plays for each other. At the moment, I left Tomorrow People coming up a year.
Okay.
Since then, we had obviously COVID, as you guys know about COVID.
Right.
We had sort of left just before that, so it sort of gave me a bit of time to really look into myself and decide what I really wanted to do musically. Something that really sort of charged my soul and what I wanted to do, creatively, as people sort of go through when they get past that, I think that 25 mark, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I've ended up starting a new crew with some other cats in where I live in New Zealand called the Valley Kids. So we're just currently in the studio, just working on our first single. We dropped a live video, just purely to introduce the band and say, hey, we're a real band. Like, here's one of our songs, bit of a teaser of a song. And I think dropping music's kind of the same anywhere in the world, as far as like, social media is such a huge thing. You know what I mean? So it's just sort of playing that game, like, before the release, make sure you have a foundation that people actually know who you are. You know what I mean? So yeah, I've really just been the last year just putting that together, getting that off the ground. And like I said, like all the musos in New Zealand and Aotearoa, real family, real whānau orientated. So it's nice to have that support. So yeah, that's pretty much what I've been up to, man. Yeah.
Awesome, man. Yeah,
Cool.
and whanau means family, right? So
yeah, whānau, yeah, whānau, like, yeah, family, yeah.
Yeah, so it's really interesting hearing kind of, your process, and also you started as a very young musician as well as Peter, you guys toured and had the whole experience and everything. And I'm just kind of curious to know, like, how has your craft changed? How has your creative processes changed over the years?
It's real funny because like I didn't get an upbringing like a lot of people in New Zealand. I was from the South Island, and it's very kind of where I grew up is very Pākehā orientated, which is like European New Zealand. It's not a lot of cultural aspects as far as this place that I grew up in. And my dad owned bars down south. And he was a musician too. And basically, I grew up as a little kid. I pretty much went from the hospital to the bar, or the pub, as we like to call it. I went from the hospital to the pub, man. I was playing in bands from the age of probably 8, playing on stage in bars. And it's kind of weird for little kids to be at the pub, like playing music. But I mean, that was my upbringing. So it was always really ingrained in us, that whole playing on stage, playing in front of people, seeing what that environment's like. You know what I mean? Like, so by the time I joined a band like Tomorrow People at 22, it was already like I was pretty well accustomed to everything. The creative change, the creative process, like you asked. It's funny because it's like the creative process and whatever you do is just, it's so broad. You know what I mean? Like there's no real system for one thing. Like, I mean, if you're talking creative process as far as writing a song, it's funny. I have this real like self-deprecating system that I go through where I'll write something, I'll go, this is great, you know what I mean? And then I'm like, oh my gosh, this sucks. Like, you suck, your mom doesn't love you. Like, what am I doing? You know what I mean?
That rabbit hole, right?
Yeah. And then you're like, oh, actually, maybe it's okay. And then you sort of get to this point where you're like, yeah, it is what it is. Drop it, release it, whatever. It's funny you talk about the creative process, because it's like, I remember the first time I heard my stuff on radio, and I was like, man, I could have done this better, I could have done that better. And it was like a real eye opener to be like, no matter what you do, you're never really going to be happy with what you've done. So I think the creative process for me in general has changed as far as like, don't care so much. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If it feels good, it feels good. If it's musical, if it's saying who you are, and it's rad, then it's rad.
Yeah, and I feel like that foundation kind of solidifies the older you get, and when I was in my 20s, when older people were just like, oh, you stop caring what people think about you. I'm like, no, you don't. But now that we're at this age, you realize that your art and craft is meant to be shared, and you become a little bit more forgiving of yourself if you mess up or anything like that. So, okay. Kind of cool. It's really cool to hear.
Yeah, you're totally right. It's sort of, you get to that point where it's like, this isn't just for me, it's for other people to hear too. So it's like, it's kind of a duty to be creative, I think.
Yeah.
I share that same sentiment too, man, because you'll sit here all day and just hate yourself for it. But really, when you put it out, right, like you can sit on tons of music, and when you put it out, like people would just love it. And you never thought that it would do as well.
Just to interject there, I'm just saying that No Rush track.
Oh, thanks to you.
Totally into it, man. So good.
I was looking at the Spotify plays, and I saw New Zealand. I said, that has to be Danny.
Me and my friends, man.
Dude, thanks for setting up the algorithm in New Zealand.
Yeah,
I appreciate it. Well, how about, I have a question for you, and I think we also feel the same way with how COVID is, but it's a little bit different for you guys, right, in New Zealand, because you guys attacked the whole pandemic in a different way that worked out for the better, right? And as a musician, we're not playing as much live out here, but for the people that don't know you know, how the scene is as far as music is concerned, or even any creative aspect or any creative role, what was the biggest challenge so far through this whole pandemic for you as a musician, from being a constant touring musician and always being in front of people, and then, you know, getting stuck in a lockdown?
It's funny you asked that, because I think the biggest word for the whole lockdown that we had, like our lockdown honestly is nothing compared to the scale
Sure.
of you guys. But like during that time when we had our huge lockdown, no one left the house, blah blah blah. Like it was, I think the word for it was confronting. You know what I mean? So it's like, because like I said, I've been playing for years, and I was like, that was the longest I've been without playing in front of a whole bunch of drunk people. You know what I mean? It was like, what are you, what are you doing there in that sense? So I mean, that was the hardest thing, to be like, it's sort of that thing, like Dylan said, like, you know, you don't know what you got till it's gone. And sort of when it was gone, it was like, the one thing I did like about it was you see all the creatives start to find new avenues. You know, people were making lockdown jams and trying to collab with people in different places and doing videos. And I took that route, and I was like, well, let's just connect with some people I don't really talk to, that I like their stuff, and let's just be creative. Like, we're all stuck at home, you know, like, why not? So that's really how I sort of dealt with it. But yeah, like, man, if live music goes away again, man, I don't know, like, if I can handle it.
Can't do it anymore, right? No, yeah.
Dude.
Yeah, I feel you, man. Yeah, absolutely.
So we definitely want to hear more about Valley Kids. Was this a project or an idea that kind of came into fruition during COVID, I believe you were mentioning?
Yeah, it was sort of like after I left Tomorrow People, it was sort of like I've been doing, you know, like we call it sunshine reggae. Well, that's what, you know, TP really like to brand themselves as. They're really sort of island based, you know, sun shining, I'm in love, let's go on a road trip sort of stuff, you know what I mean? Which is huge over here, you know, like, as you know, as you know, it's, you know, it was huge over in Guam when I was there too, you know what I mean? So I just really wanted to do something that was like a little bit different than that, you know what I mean? Like I sort of grew up, listened to a lot of heavy stuff, you know, I was into my Hendrix and Maiden and all that stuff. But I also love the, you know, the funky stuff. So I was like, well, I just want to amalgamate something that maybe just like sort of has more of my own interests at heart, you know what I mean? So it's really like this whole project for me has just been wanting to have the right people around you, wanting to write something that you want to write. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. If you're not feeling it, if no one's feeling it, then, you know, don't force something that ain't it. You know what I mean? So it's just been a bit of that, coming back to my roots of like, this is why you do it. This is what you like doing. And it turns out that the music's starting to sound amazing because we're all loving it, and the people around me are great. And yeah, it's been nice. It's been nice.
But it's really amazing to see that you're producing content right now and producing music. And even Peter, I think prior to us deciding to collab and starting this conversation or this video podcast, I was very inspired by how he kept producing and putting out work, you know, and the pandemic did not hinder his growth or his process in any way, shape, or form. And I'm no musician, but just watching that and just having these creative spaces to have these conversations was really helpful for me as a writer as well. So I think there are a couple conversations or phone calls we just hopped on to just talk, you know, and connect during these times when you feel so disconnected from everything.
Funny you say that, because I think for a lot of creatives, it was like a way, they had to find ways to keep being creative. But I think it also brought out a lot of creativity in people that didn't normally have creativity.
Yeah.
You know, you see people on social media being like, oh, I learned how to bake, you know, I learned how to play the tuba, you know, I suck, but I did it, you know, like I had time, you know. And I think that's you got to find the beauty in things like that, you know. You really got to notice that people have time for the things that they never thought they had time for, and a lot of them is playing music and stuff. So I mean, there's beauty in that, I think. So yeah, you're totally right.
And that's kind of like the excuse we tell ourselves. We're like, oh, I don't have time to do this, I have time to do that. Now you have all the time in the world. Like, wait a minute, hold on.
Yeah. I'm still making days.
That's awesome, man. Well, and for the people out there that are watching, as far as New Zealand, the reggae scene is concerned, Who's like who do you guys look up to? Like, do you have some kind of influences out there that help you continue to keep performing and writing reggae music?
Well,
And
dude,
not
as
just
far as
in New Zealand, but anywhere else, just the entire world even.
me personally, like, and I think every reggae band in New Zealand owes the biggest debt in the world to Catch a Fire. You know what I mean? Catch a Fire were like the one band. Like, I was a kid, man, when they started, and it was like they were doing the shows, like, and you didn't even realize how much of an impact they had. Like, I went to Guam for the first time, and there was like covers bands playing, you know, like Getaway, and I was like, holy, you guys know Catch a Fire is buzzy. You know what I mean? Like, even the first time I went to, you know, like Hawaii, like people were like, yeah, Catch a Fire. I was like, that's crazy. You know what I mean? So they really paved the way for everyone, really. You know what I mean? But I mean, yeah, there's the legends that have lasted. You know, Catch a Fire, bands like Fat Freddy's, you know, Sons of Zion. Yeah, I guess, you know, TP is sort of in that realm too. But yeah, I mean, there's so many up and comings, and you just, yeah, I mean, it's just a great, real sort of family vibe. You know what I mean?
Yeah, awesome. So
Catch a Fire all day.
Absolutely. I remember being a kid, maybe in like early high school, middle school, sitting in the yard, like my brother's barbecuing and stuff, and I heard the Reggae Revival album come on, and I was just hooked, man. I was hooked, and I played that album for the whole summer. That's the only thing I listened to. So yeah, 100%. I owe a big debt to them as far as my creative process is concerned. So with Valley Kids, do you guys have anything coming up in the next couple months, couple weeks, couple days?
Well, we do. We're currently in the studio recording our single. We don't really have a release date for that because, like I said, this whole project's like, we're just going to take our time, make sure we're doing everything the way we want it to be. We were playing a festival in Wellington, where I live, the capital of New Zealand, next week on Sunday, and it's just been postponed because of our good friend Mr. COVID.
Sure.
Yeah, as of today. So that's a bit of a kick in the guts, as we say.
Sure.
But yeah, so we're just kind of taking it each day. So we're sort of we have a weird alert level COVID thing that we go through. And alert level 1's like everything's fine, but we're on alert. Alert level 2's like, you know, social distancing, make sure everyone's all good, wear masks on public transport. Alert level 3's like, don't really go to school or anything, like try and work from home if you can. Yeah, everything's kind of closed. And alert level 4 is like everyone's inside, lock the doors, sort of stuff. So we've only had one alert level 4, which lasted probably, I don't know, it was like just over a month. So we've just recently, as of today, there's been some community cases in Auckland. So they've moved to alert level 3, which in turn has made the rest of the country move to alert level 2, which basically means there's no gigs because social distancing. So that's cancelled our festival show. So I was just saying to the boys, it's so funny, like, don't ever try and start a band in the middle of a pandemic. If you're trying to do gigs, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, absolutely. I feel that, brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know last year, 2020 has been such a huge like reflection period. I think it's even trickling into now. So COVID aside, you could talk about like either your career or any personal revelations you had, but what's been the biggest fear in the last year, and why do you think that kind of like happened?
The biggest fear, did you say?
Oh, I'm sorry, failure.
Failure.
Mm-hmm.
Whoo, man.
It's a heavy one.
It is a heavy one. I like it. The biggest failure was probably, like I said, when you get a bit older, you sort of you start having these moments of clarity, I guess, of reflection. And I think the biggest one was probably not. It's pretty generalized, but probably just not like backing myself enough. You know what I mean? So it's like, you know, if the creatives always have this really self-deprecating, like, it's not good enough, it's not, you know, you should have done, you know, you shouldn't do it because you're not good at it. So I think my biggest failure was probably doing a lot of stuff, or not doing a lot of stuff, I should say, because I didn't think it was good enough. Releasing stuff, playing with other people. Yeah, so just real self-deprecation stuff. That's probably, yeah, so the biggest failure is probably just the internal battle that you have with yourself and your own ego.
Yeah. No, definitely to piggyback off that, I believe a lot of musicians, very young and up and coming musicians, may be plugging into this episode specifically to kind of get advice from two very seasoned musicians. So I was wondering with that, what advice would you give them to overcome their imposter syndrome? And Peter, feel free to plug in as well.
The advice I would give, and it's the same every time, is like, be confident, but never complacent. So be confident in your ability. If you get a gig, if you get a job, like, you got it for a reason, like, celebrate that. Be confident in that, but never be complacent. So I think complacent in your ability. There's always someone better than you. There's always something you can do better. There's always that next tier that you can get to. So I think be confident, never complacent. And to be honest, just don't be a dick, man. Like,
yep.
Like, no, it doesn't matter how good you are, man. I've seen so many like incredible musos, like incredibly talented, and they're just like, they can't hang because they're like because it's like, if no one wants to work with you, then like, what's the point of being good, Like, so yeah. Be confident, never complacent, don't be a dick.
Yeah. And I'm going to piggyback off of that too, is what's great is trust the process too. If you're good at that, if you're good at, not being complacent and really trusting your talents that, was God given, I think, and not being a dick is very important. Be a good person. Trust the process will kind of take care of itself. I think we always have that existential crisis as a musician that, what's going to go on, man? Like, nothing's ever going to happen. We're not going to have shows, never going to get a song that pops off, but eventually it does. And it may not always be what you want, but it's a part of the process. And that's what makes it exciting. It's a journey. It's not the destination, as cliche as that sounds.
Yeah. And like, even just to piggyback off that again, it's like how you said, like, it'll, trust the process. It's like, I think a lot of people think that it just magically happens.
Right.
But it's like, you got to work hard, man. And like, people like yourself, man, like, you're always dropping stuff, you're always working on stuff, and your content's good. It's good quality. You know what I mean? Like, and it's like, if you are working, I mean, there's no reason for you not to get anywhere. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's funny. Like, good luck takes a lot of hard work.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what makes music amazing, is it's a culmination of a lot of luck and a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that a lot of people don't see.
No.
And when it comes out, like, it changes lives, So that's amazing, man. Thanks for sharing that. I had a question for you. And this is a question that I asked Akina. So I think it's going to be a thing for this show.
Right.
And the question is very, very simple, and it's probably been asked billions of times across the world. But for you, Danny, the question is, if you were stuck on an island, right? Name the top 3 things that you would bring, and it could be whatever you want, but share it with the people. If you were stuck on an island, what would be the 3 things you would bring?
It's so funny because, like, it's such a well-known asked question, but you never actually think about it, I think for one would be a knife. I feel like whenever people are in these scenarios, you're like, man, if you had a knife, you'd be fine. A knife. Man.
Thinking.
Yeah, a knife. A guitar, obviously. Like, I mean, it's gonna get pretty mentally heavy, and I think guitars always help. Not very survivalist, obviously, but hey, maybe you can use a string for something. I don't know. A knife, a guitar, and good footwear.
Oh,
Footwear.
I didn't think of that. Huh.
That's good.
I think it's important.
That is good.
I like that. I like the guitar because if there isn't wood, which probably there will be because it's an island, at least you have something to start a fire. But it's a give and take, right? Like, if you can't start a fire, you're gonna have something to play, but you might go crazy after that fire is gone. So,
yeah, for sure.
It's a give or take. Oh man, and the shoes. I love the shoes. I wouldn't have thought of that.
Yeah.
I was just thinking. I was just thinking of Castaway. Really, I'm like,
Yeah.
what did he need? You know, I think he needed a good footwear. Forrest Gump, always keep your feet dry. You
Yeah.
know. Mm.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Danny, for spending some time with us today. I want to let everybody know out there that or I want to ask you, where can people find you if they're looking for you on social media? Let them or tell them where the what's the juice? Where's Danny at?
Well, my personal Instagram is Danny_Suggaz, Suggaz. But go onto my profile in my bio, Valley Kids. Look that stuff up. Valley Kids on Facebook, Instagram. We're not on Spotify yet, but coming. YouTube, all that good stuff. Valley Kids. Look it up.
Valley Kids. And then I'll also we'll link the all the tags and descriptions down in the description, guys. So make sure you guys go and check that out. Again, Danny, thank you guys so much for coming and hanging out with us today. Episode 2 of Rooted Oceania. Appreciate you, bro.
Thanks so
Thank
much,
you
guys.
so much. It's great having you.